Good afternoon, everybody. A warm and hello welcome from CXOTV.news, a flagship brand under Tech Plus Media Group. I am Anand Sharma from Tech Plus Media, your host for today's event. We have been running this webinar series titled Marketing Mondays for over almost 2 years now to provide a platform to marketeers to learn from fellow marketing gurus. Well, today it is yet another important topic which is titled Measuring Marketing, Making It Count. As the saying goes, if you can't measure something, you can't manage it. We would attempt to not only uncover why measuring marketing is so much important, but also as to how to make the marketing unit count and leave a mark in the organization. It becomes all the more important when marketing has been traditionally considered a cost center and back-end support or lead gen unit for the big B, which is the frontline salesperson. We plan to cover the following pointers: why measuring marketing initiatives is important, how to measure it effectively and efficiently, how not to measure and avoid falling into the trap of analysis paralysis, how technology can augment the measuring stuff, and last but not the least, how marketing can add value to the overall schema of things in an organization. We have an eminent panel today. I will request them to do a quick round of self-introduction, going by their alphabetical order of the names. Ankesh, why don't you start first?
Thanks, Anand, and it's quite a pleasure to be part of this panel with some eminent panelists. So, for everyone's knowledge, I am Ankesh Sagar, and I am based out of Singapore. Currently, I'm heading marketing for Insider, which is a B2B SaaS company which helps digital marketeers to offer personalized experiences to their customers. Being into IT industry from last 14 years, worked with large companies like TCS, Infosys, Wipro, and worked with some unicorn startups like Automation Anywhere, App Dynamics. And pretty much excited to be part of this discussion because I think this is a very common question which comes that what is the marketing ROI? How do we measure marketing efforts? And nothing comes for free in this world. No one is in charity business. So obviously the budget which we carry as a marketeer is very important. And that's why whatever we spend, we should be able to actually measure that spend very carefully in the long term and the short term. And that's why you have to convince your executive sponsors and the management that how are you going to plan your marketing marketing budgets. So looking forward for a great discussion.
Absolutely. Welcome on board, Ankesh. Kaustubh, you want to go next?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Anand. And it's a pleasure to be on this forum. Lovely to connect with Ankesh and Winston. It's always, I personally feel that, every day is something that you get to learn new. So for everybody, my name is Kaustubh Patki. Currently, I head the marketing for software company called as Microfocus, which is one of the world's largest infrastructure software company. In my current role, I'm responsible for the end-to-end marketing strategy for Microfocus in India. And I fundamentally believe that B2B marketing, that's where my experience lies for the past 20 years and having worked with various IT MNCs in India, large MNCs, Veritas, CA, IBM, HP, and now Microfocus. Um what I've understood is that there is very less written or spoken about B2B marketing. What today we know a lot of B2B marketing is the experience that we have. So at this point of time, I'm almost seeing 60 years of work experience or B2B marketing experience among all the panelists. And I think that is what would be interesting. And as Ankesh said, that there is a lot that we need to put in while we plan to ensure that we uh, give the right ROI. And as the topic goes, that how do we measure marketing, and which is always going to be a gray area, especially when it comes to B2B marketing, because B2B marketing is never simple. It's pretty complex, multi-stakeholders, um, and especially if you are technology marketer and that to B2B, it gets even more complex. And then we will over the panel, I'm sure we will discuss the points that you've mentioned. But It's going to be fun and lot new things that I will also learn from Ankesh and Winston. So pleasure being on this panel.
Absolutely, Kaustubh. Pleasure is mine. Thank you so much. Winston, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Anand, first of all, for inviting me to be on this panel. It's great to be here and great to connect with colleagues from all over the world. And a little bit about myself. So I am the head of marketing for Axis Communications, and I am responsible for the South Asia Pacific region. So Axis Communications is not a household name, all right? We are a very specialized provider of surveillance systems and business optimization solutions. So most of the time, you won't see us, you won't hear of us, but there's a very good chance that one of our products is helping keep you safe somewhere. So that's where I am today. A little bit more about myself. I think in the past, my career, I'm based in Singapore, as you can see, maybe from the background. And most of my career, past 25-year career, I think I've been covering mostly Asia Pacific or Southeast Asia, not always in a marketing role. I have been in sales before. I have been a journalist before. So I've had the benefit of multiple types of experiences, good and bad, from different professions. But marketing is where I have spent most of my time. So that's about me. And so, Anand, maybe we can get started. Over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Ankesh, Winston. And once again, I welcome Ankesh, Kaustubh, Winston, all of you on the panel today. So, friends, there has been a plethora of recommendations, right, of what to do and what not to. But measuring marketing assumes importance when you want to prove a point statistically, right, as to what contribution you have made. And it is not only intangible and goodwill that is created, as Kaustubh was mentioning, but there's something called ROMI, return on marketing investment. And I always recommend the CMOs that not only highlight the ROMI to the CFOs, but also the opportunity cost of not executing it. Well, let's learn what our panelists have to recommend today. The views expressed by the speakers are their own and may not represent the viewpoint of their organizations they work with. Let's start with Ankesh. Ankesh, how do we measure marketing? I always love starting from basics. So, what are the different means of measuring marketing?
So it's a very broad question, I can clearly say, and we can actually discuss for hours on this. But in a nutshell, actually, I would divide this entire concept into two parts. One is demand generation, and second is brand awareness. If you keep these two buckets, then you can create multiple KPIs under these two buckets. So let's pick up the first one, which is demand generation. So this actually depends on the maturity of that company also, that what they want to measure. Because if you look at the list, there is something called leads. How many leads have you generated? How many marketing qualified leads have you generated? How many sales accepted leads have you generated? What is your website traffic? How many new visitors are coming on your website? Then as you grow towards a little bit of matured company, then you talk about how much new business have you generated versus how much expansion business have you generated in terms of your pipeline. When you mature more, you talk about how much revenue actually you are measuring through marketing sourced opportunities. When you mature more, they talk about marketing influenced opportunities, which is very tough to measure, that which opportunity is influenced by marketing and which opportunity is not influenced by marketing. But more or less, you go towards more marketing sourced opportunities. And when you go into this motion, you slowly become a demand generation engine, where marketing has become a strategic function to generate the business for the company. Because in the starting, if you pick up any startup, what they want more actually business in terms of leads, because the sales doesn't get leads on time. They're not getting enough leads. The pipeline is not big. That's why the focus goes there, actually more and more demand generation, because they have to run the business. They need money. They're answerable to the investors. But as you grow up, then your brand also becomes important, which was another bucket, which is brand awareness. Because if you look at like big companies like Accenture, Wipro, Infosys, their deals goes in multi-million dollar. So there you have to be a more prominent into your brand awareness side, because it is not that if I do an event and I get lead there, that's the KPI in Wipro. it will be more on the influence side, that how can I act as a catalyst, marketing catalyst in a multi-million dollar deal where the deal is not getting closed, but marketing can help to close the deal. So if you look at a startup, we become an opener, deal opener, but in a large companies, marketing more act as a deal closure also. And that happens in multiple ways. For example, if you talk about testimonials right now or case studies, or if you talk about G2 Crowd or Gartner Peer Insights, these platforms are becoming very much prominent nowadays. People want to know what is the feedback of that particular product company or particular software. And that's why people love to know more about that. That's why your case studies or user forums or advisory councils, they measure a lot. That's why your KPI or OKR depends on the two buckets, which is demand generation and brand awareness. And that's how you calculate what do you want to really achieve. And to derive this thing, OKRs or KPIs for marketing measurement, you have to understand what is your organization goal, what the company wants to achieve, and what are your sales goal. Because I always feel that for marketeers, we have two stakeholders. One is your end customer, and second is your sales guys. If we are not able to help our sales guys to close the deals or open the deals, then I think we are not doing our job properly. So marketing always understand what is the sales goal, what is the sales KPI, and how can I help sales to grow their market. It can be both ways. It can be through your demand generation activities. It can be through a brand awareness also. Because at the end of the day, we need business. And if you put money in any category, it should not like, okay, I did this particular event and after that, I don't know how to measure it. That's why you have to understand the entire customer journey. So if Accenture is putting billboards at all the airports, or SAP is putting billboards, they're not just doing for fun or just telling that is brand awareness. There are a lot of metrics which they talk about doing that campaign, because they have to generate that clout about it. And if you see very powerful messaging, what I've seen with Accenture, SAP, and Dell at all those airports, they talk about their case studies, that we helped that company, which two or three statements, which is more powerful, impactful statements that people will remember. That's how people remember that brand, or that, oh wow. Like for example, I tell you of something which I saw at I think San Francisco airport, where there's an ad from Dell EMC, where there's a rhino which is standing in the African jungle, and the quotation was that, okay, due to the Dell EMC's software, we are able to save some 100 rhinos or 1,000 rhinos by some tracking, which is impactful, that you are helping the society. And that's how people play with that. So I think there are multiple ways to measure the marketing but in the broad buckets, you have brand awareness and demand generation, and it depends on the company's maturity level, that what they want to focus on. And that's how company OKRs are always drilled down to marketing OKRs.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting. You brought out the pointer of OKRs, and I'll come to that later. Moving on to my next question, Kaustubh. Do we need to have a different measurement scale for marketing? For example, isn't company growth supersizing 2x, 3x, or roaming? Aren't they a good enough indicator?
So once again, Anand, thank you very much. Just to reiterate that the views that I express are purely my views and not from my organization perspective on their behalf. And this is something what I have seen. What I would say that yes, what I'm going to talk about is more from a B2B marketing perspective, because that's where my experience lies. And I would say that yes, we need to have a separate measurement scale for marketing, and especially B2B marketing is what I'm going to say. The reason as I started in my earlier conversation, was that B2B is very complex, and it's a multi-stakeholder kind of an approach that we need to have. And typically, when you have technology, it gets even more complex. What also I've seen is that, especially in a lot of the IT MNCs where we do B2B marketing, it's not a level playing field, meaning that it is more sales driven than marketing driven. It's where marketing is a support function, where marketing is a function that helps sales drive more revenue. And when we look from a B2B marketing perspective, there needs to be a customized approach when we come to, because the requirement for different organization, different industry is different. to the extent that what we've also seen in that B2B marketing, there is a lot of interpersonal, relationship that drives business when it comes to B2B marketing. And last but not the least, at least what I've seen is that many times you need to drive an omni-channel approach for you to, get the desired results. Now, when we look at this kind of complicity, and then when we look at ROI, and the kind of measurement that we see typically and we live with the day in and day out is that for every $1 that you have invested, are you returning $28? That is the basic thing that is seen. But is that the right thing? Or is that the only thing that we should be measured on? Or is it that do you have enough amount of pipeline? Is that pipeline, as Ankesh said, that is that pipeline enough? And is that pipeline closable or can it be accelerated? Have you have enough amount of success stories? What is the kind of PR that you've done? What is the kind of analysis relationships that you've driven? How is it helping uh, the overall business? And many times these things are not measurable. Uh, uh, Typically, as Ankesh said, that when you are going to have demand generation and brand awareness, uh, definitely brand awareness is something it will be very difficult to measure. And there is a lot of impact that happens when you do brand awareness, unlike just looking at return on marketing investments. Now, I would also try to draw a point with that the way we saw marketing pre-pandemic and way we saw marketing post-pandemic, we are seeing a good amount of difference. The reason being is that post-pandemic, most of the activities that you're doing for marketing has gone digital or virtual. And typically, when you're doing anything digital or virtual, you will see that it's basically measurable. Measurable to the extent that, as someone said, is that this is mass personalization because you can have the right set of content given to the right person and the right organization. You can measure how many people saw your banner, how many time they have spent on your website, so on and so forth. Unlike, as Ankesh mentioned, that had that been a ad which was impactful, which he saw at San Francisco, I could not measure it. Unlike now, I can measure it. But having said that, when you are in the B2B segment, uh, doing all these, is it really making the right kind of impact that you want to do in your set of accounts? Is what matters at the end of the day. Because as a large enterprise, if you have only those 200 or 250 set of organizations, finally you are going to give business. Okay, are these set of activities really driving that kind of a movement in these accounts where then the sales guys can say that, okay, we've got new connects, we are being able to generate new pipeline, or we are able to accelerate the pipeline, because at the end of the day that is what will matter. So coming back to the answer, is that yes, measurements can't just be universal. We need to look at it in a different perspective, because if it is demand gen, it is ROI. But if it is brand, it's going to be very difficult to put in ROI. That's what I feel.
Can I just add something here? Slightly different
Sure.
perspective, if you will. So over the course of my career, I think I've had the privilege and honor of being part of Samsung Mobile a few years back. Right, I was with the company for I think about 7 years. And I bring this up because we were talking about brand awareness. Right, it's a tough topic. But what Samsung Mobile did was actually to find a way to measure brand awareness and brand preference, because as a consumer-oriented company, Samsung Mobile needed to know how they stood versus their competitors. Like back then, it was Apple and BlackBerry and Nokia. So it is possible in the sense that what we did back then was we actually conducted nationwide surveys in selected countries in our region. All right, so Singapore, Malaysia, I think most parts of Southeast Asia. India was represented by a few of the major cities. And what we did was we actually had surveyors go out there to ask consumers a few questions, right? The questions were really simple. I think it was one page at the most, because consumers aren't going to have the patience to give you 20 pages worth of answers. It was one page, and the questions were simply along the lines of, what phone are you using today? Is it a Samsung? Is it an Apple? Is it a Nokia? Is it a BlackBerry? What phone do you intend to switch to when you upgrade the next time? Is it a Samsung? Is it an Apple? Is it a Nokia? Is it a BlackBerry? All right. And if your friend were to ask you for a recommendation, which phone brand would you recommend? Again, and with these, we could actually come up with a kind of a good idea of how brand awareness and brand preference worked for us back then, whether it's for or whether it's against. But the caveat here is Samsung Mobile has very deep pockets, obviously. So a smaller company or startup or maybe a B2B company typically won't have the resources to do this kind of thing. But if anyone in our audience, you have the good fortune to be working in a company like this, by all means, knock yourself out. Please try it out. I think it's a fantastic way to measure brand awareness and brand preference for your business. Thank you.
Okay, we have one question from somebody, but and this is relevant to what we were talking. So let me just pick it up right away. GL. Okay, he's asking what are some marketing metrics you can measure in a B2B context today for brand awareness and demand gen. And so this is something what we have been discussing right now. You want to go ahead, Winston?
Well, that question was already answered by Ankesh quite well,
Right.
especially on the demand gen part, right? So I'm not
Absolutely.
going to repeat all that. So, but for brand awareness for a B2B company, that's a much tougher question to be really, really realistic, because most times B2B companies won't have the resources to do the kind of brand surveys I was just talking about. So one of the ways, or one of the things that we can try to do, is to search for proxies for brand awareness for B2B companies. Or alternatively, you can try to look at creating some kind of top of funnel campaigns through SEM, and just try to get a sense of the measurements of the impressions that you're getting, right? The challenge there is, without a good knowledge or in-depth insight into what your competitors are doing, it's a little bit hard to set yourself a benchmark. You may run a tofu campaign that generates 10 million impressions, but if you have no idea where your competitors stand, then it becomes kind of meaningless as well. So brand awareness is, again, a much tougher call and a much tougher area to measure when it comes to B2B. And normally for most organizations, I would say this is probably not your top priority most of the time.
Absolutely, Winston.
I
And
can,
I think,
so
yeah,
Anand, I can contribute here actually. So as a basic start right now, the person who's asked this question can look at three parameters for brand awareness. So first of all, they should do a basic check on their SEO side. Like whatever the keywords are there, is their website is really coming up in that search or not? Because gone are those days when people used to say that, oh, my website should be on the page number 1. Now people actually don't scroll much. You have to be in top 4 or top 3. So do a research on your website first and see that whether your website is people are really aware about, or it is really coming up there or not, so that you can increase your brand awareness when people search about the right keywords. That's one. Second, about your LinkedIn followers. Check out how many followers you have and check out the growth of your followers week on week basis. Because if your followers are like stagnant, then trust me, you have to invest in your brand, because at the end of the day, those followers can become your advocates also, and as a multiplying factor there. So that's second thing. And a third thing, which you have to closely observe on your website, in terms of how much traffic are you getting on your website. Are you getting enough traffic? Are you getting that traffic which is gradually increasing or not? And now there are tools which can help you to understand that on which page people are spending a lot of time. Because if someone says that, oh, I'm getting good traffic, but those traffic is actually going on your career page to find jobs, then it is not the right traffic for you. So the tool like Hotjar, so you can install Hotjar on your website, and see that, okay, on which page people are spending time, so that you know you have the right traffic is coming up. So in a nutshell, like SEO, followers and traffic, they can put at least these three things in place to really understand what their brand is.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Winston, when you were mentioning about customer advocacy and the brand awareness and brand perception, I was thinking about NPS, which is Net Promoter Score, right? Which is very widely used by the markets and the board to understand as to how well the company is received in the target group segment, right? The question was from Gloria Lee from Axis. Okay. Coming back to my next question, Winston, and that's for you. And we would need to slightly rush up because otherwise we would not be able to cover the entire spectrum. What are your views? How marketing effectiveness and contribution need to be measured? I think we have already answered that. Ankesh has also answered, and you have also answered. But in case you want to add anything to this, Winston, basically on two pieces. One is effectiveness, and second one is contribution measurement.
Okay. If we take the first one, all right, which is marketing measurements, I think Ankesh has really hit the nail on the head with his two broad categories. But for the benefit of the audience, I think the challenge is that for most of us, those of you who are working in, say, a specific function, be it in marketing automation, be it in social media marketing, be it in SEO or search engine, I think the challenge would be, well, how do you break it down further into ways that these scores matter to you? And how do you tell that to your boss to show that you're adding something, right? The good news is that today, because of the pandemic, we're kind of being forced to use digital tools in our day-to-day work as marketers. In fact, we are forced to do it a lot more. Because if you don't have people wandering around the city streets, what's the point of all that fancy billboard advertising, right? And the good news is that with digital, you can find all sorts of ways and means to measure something, right? It can be your search engine ranking. It can be the number of impressions you're delivering. It can be the engagement rate that you're getting out of your posts. It can be even as specific as the number of times people share a good comment about what you said or what you posted on your Facebook page or your company Facebook page, for instance, right? The trick is really to find something that is meaningful to your business and to your individual role within that marketing organization. And that answer is not easy to find because very often I've come across in my career marketing people who are just day in, day out doing their thing. And sometimes they just forget. Why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? You know, and when the time for a review comes around, you ask them, okay, what have you been doing for the past 6 months? And they all give you this look. I'm not sure. You know, so don't be that person. Right? Don't be that person. Right? In each of us, and this is kind of related to everything, right? To the business and to us as individual marketers. Be very clear what it is you're trying to do. Be very clear what kind of numbers you can collect and report. It could be something even as simple as the number of people I've trained in my classrooms. It could be that simple, right? It could be the number of email send-outs I've done. It could be click-through rates on average for everything. It could be, I know, cost per lead collected. Anything, right? Don't take the lazy way out and say, I don't know. Find something to measure because it's about yourself and it's about how you are contributing to your organization. Sad to say, I've also seen a lot of managers who, you know, when they manage their teams, they are like, I don't care, you know, as long as you do your job, I don't care what you do. That's not right either, but there are people like that. There are managers like that. And then if for people in the audience, if you have a manager like that, I say, good luck to you. Please take care of yourself, and don't wait for your manager to tell you what to measure. Find something to measure. Find something and understand what it means for your company, and measure it, and tell your boss at the end of the year, this is what I did, this is what I achieved, and this is how it helps this business. If you can do that, I would say, well done. I mean, your career is going places.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Winston. Uh, you have made me thinking, and I'll come back to you with some follow-up questions on that. So, Ankesh, moving on to my next question. I was thinking of a situation. Have you ever faced this issue of justifying your team's performance? For example, making it count that how the team has added value to the results. What did you do?
Absolutely, many times, because as I think Kaustubh has mentioned that if it is a sales-driven organization, right? So it is all about numbers, and you have to really tell that, okay, if I am spending $1, then how much pipeline, 100x, 30x, whatever the number is, how much I'm getting from it, and if it doesn't get it, then I have to justify why. So my mantra is that always I have to protect my team any day, whether in front of the management, I should take the brunt, because at the end of the day, I have to lead by example. So this
Can I
happens a
take a
lot.
moment? Let's take an interesting poll here. Okay, and so that we engage our audience as well. Let me launch this poll, and it should be on your screen right away. We would be very quick uh, in answering, so please cast your vote. All right, that's interesting. I don't know whether this is only for this session, or the response is extremely skewed. Uh, it says yes 50%, and nobody says no. 50% says maybe. Okay, so that was interesting. Please go ahead, Ankesh. Please carry on.
Yeah, so as the number say, like 50% says yes and 50% maybe. So yeah, we have come across this situation many times. I'm sure Kaustubh and Winston also. So it is important to explain the team actually, or the management, that you cannot expect ROI from every activity.
Hmm.
Because at the end of the day, it is not like this that you did a webinar and then after that you get some opportunities and you are making a deal there. People have to understand the customer journey, and that's why I'm a very big advocate of understanding the personas and understanding the customer journey. So, and make your customer connected with you, keep them close to your heart, and one fine day they will give you the business if they understand you fully. So it is like a love marriage. It is not an arranged marriage where you just go and just find the girl and it's done. Even in arranged marriage, also people have to spend time. So time matters here, and that's why we have to explain to our management that if I'm doing this activity, then what is the reasoning behind that activity? What is the expected outcome? Expected outcome, not confirmed outcome. Expected outcome, and there comes actually nurture programs. So you have to nurture your leads. So whatever the activity, marketing activity I am doing, I have to confirm with that. Okay, how are going to touch this CIO or CT or CMO again? How are we actually engaging them in the different boardroom discussions or workshops or master classes? But don't leave that persona, don't leave that team. And at the end of the day, this is the biggest challenge which actually nowadays a lot of companies face: the attribution model. They say, okay, this particular event has got me a lot of good leads and I have got so many opportunities, but it's not like that. People have researched a lot about you, and they attended about your company, your offerings in multiple activities, and that's how they landed to your booth in that event. So that event has not done the magic. Actually, the magic is happening across the entire customer journey, across the entire funnel. So it is important to actually tell that to your management, that why do you need this budget and why it will be a part of the entire big game plan. And that's why we have to actually support your team a lot, that why do you want to do that. But as a leader, we have to do the due diligence always, that and ask tough questions to your team, that why do you really want to do this activity, because the clarity of thought is very important to them. Don't do this activity because your competition has done that. Maybe there's a failure for them, but make sure that you have a clarity that why do you want to do this activity, and ask those questions, because tomorrow when I present that plan to my management, they will ask the same questions to me. So there are many instances came there when we have to really justify the team performance, that why it happened, why it did not work. But believe in that, when that people have clarity of thought, you face very less difficult situations rather than vice versa.
No, thank you so much, Ankesh. Yeah, sure, Winston. I like your conviction, Ankesh, and clarity of thoughts. Thank you. Go ahead, Winston.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Ankesh was saying. I have to keep reminding everyone repeatedly in my current organization and in past organizations as well. There's a few different stages that a potential customer goes through, right? First of all, there is awareness. There is awareness that you have a need as a customer for something. You have a need for a solution. You have a need for a device. You have a need for a service. Once you realize you have that need, then you start considering what would fulfill that need. I have the need to show off my status. Therefore, I need to buy the latest iPhone. Right? Of course, people won't say that to themselves, but that's in a way kind of the thought process that people go through. And then after you go through that consideration, okay, so awareness, social status, consideration, iPhone is the most expensive, therefore I shall buy the iPhone because it's about social status. And then I shall go and purchase one. And then I realize, hey, there's a gold-plated Samsung out there. Damn it. I should sell my iPhone and buy a gold-plated Samsung. Right? And then you regret, right? But the basic stages, awareness, consideration, purchase, and post-purchase. I mean, at each of these stages, it's important to understand what it is that they are thinking of, those customers are thinking of, what it is that you can tell them or share with them that could potentially lead them to be aware of this need, or potentially even lead them to consideration of what you are offering. And the story you tell in an ideal world would not be the same. And the toughest part is you need to educate your internal organizations as well. Right? I think personally and professionally for me, the internal education is the toughest. Because it's always the people you're working with that tends to just, yeah, whatever, let's just put a Facebook post and that will solve the problem. But I mean, like it or not, we are faced today with many challenges. And one of those challenges actually is the internal stakeholders that we need to face, that we need to talk to, that we need to get on board with us, and that we need them to understand what marketing can do and what marketing cannot do. As you pointed, I think it was Ankesh who pointed out, you don't do a webinar and then start expecting deals to come in. It's not the way it works, right? It would be great if that was. Then we'd be a multi-billion-dollar company by now, but that's not the way it works, right? I think all of us would be, because based on the number of webinars we run nowadays, right? But it's never that simple, right? Especially in a B2B context. So internal education, awareness of all these different stages, clarity of thought. I love that phrase. I use it myself very often. I mean, these are all also very important things that marketers also need to pay attention to.
Very true. Thank you so much, Winston, for the addition. First, moving on to my next question for you. You know, I'm slightly, changing the topic here. How to make the marketing count in the overall top line contribution? We have been talking about the first part of the discussion till now, which was, measuring marketing, and now this is about how to making it count and how to see the other side, wherein overall organization recognizes the contribution that has been made. Over to you, Kaustubh.
Right. And then before I get into answering that, just a couple of things that I would like to add from what we were discussing in terms of the challenges and issue faced. Is that, one of the key things that I've seen is that when there is a disconnect between the last mile, that is the field, and marketing, meaning that we as B2B marketers or marketers need to be connected to the sales guys on the field, to the channel partners, to the analysts, because they are the ones who are the ones who really tell you what the customer really wants. It's your sales guy, because there are two prong approach. One is that does your sales guys have the right connect in the customer, and does he have enough pipeline? And if you don't know that, whatever you do, you're going to fail. That is one. Second thing is that until unless you don't know those things, you cannot develop the content and messaging that you want to go and give it to your customer. Because if you're not field aligned, you're bound to fail. So I fundamentally feel is that the problem comes when typically you're not field aligned, where you don't understand what the last mile really wants, and you start delivering maybe many a times what the global or your APJ headquarters tells you to do, and that's where the disconnect is. So I feel fundamentally, if you're field aligned and you have eye on the pipeline, I mean that will take most of your troubles out, where the manager will stop questioning you. Now, coming to the second question, what you said that, how can we make marketing count? And we as marketeers, it is our job to ensure that uh, we should be able to get that market intelligence, work with analysts, and try to identify what are the new opportunities, what are the new market areas which we can explore, which is beyond the certain current realm of where the sales and the management is working, and that is where we will see the value add that marketing can get, and that is what will count. Because what salesperson is looking at is, he is very much sure about what he can get tomorrow, but he's not very sure what he will get 1 quarter down the line, 2 quarter down the line, and are you really working on that? And that is where, if you have the right strategy in place, where you're thinking uh, more beyond your existing realm of activities, that is what is matters, and that is where I think marketers should start working, looking at new market areas, looking at new opportunities, what is the next wave, and that is what will really help count in the top line to the business.
Very well articulated, Kaustubh, and thank you so much for this. Cool. We move on to the next aspect of it, which is always very close to my heart. Ankesh, starting with you, how can technology help or augment the performance of marketing team or organizations? If you want to give very specific examples.
This question always comes when you do the next year planning, budget planning, and when you have to put some budget for the technology when buying, and the management says, no, you have enough technologies, but you have to explain why do you need it. So this is always a question of build versus buy. Some people think that you can build your own technology over a time. Some people say, I think, no, I think we should buy it because we don't have enough time. So it's like a situation where we have to take a call that what is important for us and whether the technology is going to really help us. And I think in today's scenario, the companies who are winning the entire race are due to their MarTech stack. Their MarTech stack is really good because they are able to actually roll out the right offerings, right offers to the customer at the right amount of time. And I can totally believe that because in Insider we see that, because as our technology we use multiple channels like web, WhatsApp, Facebook, Line, and email marketing, and all these channels are combined together as part of the customer journey. That is in the actually B2C side. Similarly, in the B2B side also, you have to touch base the customer at multiple places. So I'll give you an example of which I found out some time back for a company called Tipco. And Alan, who the guy who used to handle the APAC marketing, I was seeing that presentation. So in their stack, they put their tools like chatbots also. So suppose if right now, nowadays, most of the emails which I get, I know is a bot. John from this company, XYZ from this company. I know these are the bots, but those bots are, trust me, are so intelligent that you don't even feel that you're not talking to a human. And that's an investment to make in the technology because that is saving time. Customer is getting the instant response, and at that point of time, customer feels, oh wow, these guys are really approachable. If I'm
And I
putting
think
a demo request,
a very quick one, Ankesh. Perhaps that's how you can do hyper personalization at a real rapid pace.
exactly, and that's why when people say, I give you example, like I saw some website where I went once and I put my details because I downloaded a white paper. When I went back there, I found out that directly it is written on the banner page, "Hello Ankesh, how are you doing?" And that gave me such type of personalization. Oh wow, on the website banner page, that is my name. And that becomes a brand recall, brand awareness, all the things come together in that sense. So it is very
Yeah,
important to invest in the right technology actually, because at the end of the day, what is going to happen that all these things will increase your business. And for example, like request demo, still companies are like, I put a demo request and then the turnaround time is 24 hours. Actually, this was the old concept which people say you have to respond for demo request for 24 hours. Now the time has come when you go on the website and you choose the right time, that okay, what is my availability, because that can show the sales availability and my availability I can see, and I can book the time slot right away. So people who believe that we should go back to those days, actually, when 24 hours, sorry, people are booking that calendar then and there only, and invest on those technologies. And the biggest successful example I think right now is Drift, because Drift is such a successful company in the world right now in the chat space, that you can really talk to the available person then and there. So there are many examples, and I think it's very important to invest in the right technology at the right time. Otherwise, if your martech stack is not good, you will have issues like leads are dropping, there's no follow up, and there's no attribution, and you're not able to measure the right impact. And the topic of this webinar, measuring the impact of marketing.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, please go ahead, Winston.
Yeah, so I think the hot topic among a lot of marketing professionals today is your martech stack, right? It's kind of becoming like a kind of a bragging thing. Hey, my martech stack is greater than yours. When marketing professionals get together, so it's quite amusing to see. But on a more serious note, I think from there's also a cautionary tale here. In one of my previous organizations, I happened to be there when we put in Salesforce. So Salesforce is, of course, the one of the most popular CRMs around the world today. So, and the idea, of course, was to build up that MarTech stack with Salesforce as the foundation. And but the journey, I realized as we went past, I realized, because the discussion didn't involve a lot of the field sales teams. What happened in the end was that, hey, we put in Salesforce. We've got all this information with all these contacts, great prospects, they're all sitting in Salesforce. Marketing people, you cannot access it. Oh, but we spent all that money on Salesforce. Why can't we access this information? Oh, but you can't, because we have this privacy law here. We have this group of people here who wouldn't like to be contacted. We have this group of few salespeople here who say their contacts are sacred. No one else can touch them. And this list goes on. And it just practically, it just blew my brain out that this company invested money in Salesforce. And we ended up in a situation like that. So the moral of the story here is this. MarTech stack, sure, great. There's a lot of knowledge out there. Go and learn from it. But just as importantly, the company's processes aligned and everything else also need to be aligned with that growth in your MarTech stack. You don't talk to your salespeople, you don't talk to your business development people, you don't integrate this into your workflow. You can have the fanciest MarTech stack in the world. I will still say good luck to all of you. So I think that's been one of my most painful experiences, I would say.
I'm bringing about thank you so much, Winston, for your addition to this. I've brought up a very relevant poll here, and since we are almost on top of the hour, and I'll take just one more question. Please do cast your vote here. It says, do you feel that your organization has the right tools? Everybody saying yes, everybody saying no. So now it is 50-50. It's purely 50-50. Everybody knows that whether they have the tool or they don't have the tool. So cool. Thank you. Moving on to my last question, unless audience ask any question. And Kaustubh, that's for you. What are the pitfalls? We don't want to do analysis paralysis. Okay. Why it is important question, because if you are measuring wrong criteria or parameter uh, and uh, and attributing it to the wrong stuff, you can actually write a recipe for disaster, right? So, what would be wrong yardsticks to measure marketing performance?
So here are what I feel the marketing metrics which can go wrong. I fundamentally feel that someone has said that please do not go by something called as vanity metrics, meaning that please don't go by feel good measurement like PR impressions, the like shares, the name that we got at trade shows and all. Instead, let's look at what is the business outcome. That is what matters at the end of the day, and then that will be a better metrics to follow. Focus on quantity versus quality. Focus on quality versus quantity. I stand corrected out there because you can have a room filled with customers, and the sales team will be really very happy, or your management will be very happy that you've delivered amazing webinar, amazing virtual event. But at the end of the day, if that cannot be converted into business, the effectiveness of that campaign will really go in. That's what we need to really see, that if where we need to use efficiency versus effectiveness, and that's most important. The third thing is that let's not take marketing as cost metrics. Let's not talk it as costs and budget. Because if we get into cost and budget, at times it will be very difficult to go back and justify to the management that what is the value add that you're doing to the top line or the bottom line. And tomorrow when there's a budget cut, you will be the first people to get the cut because you were not able to justify what is the value add that you've been able to do with the bottom line. And finally, I would sum it up saying that uh, have a balanced strategy. Uh, when I say balanced strategy, I mean that first understand what is the state of business you are in. Are you in that early stages, a new technology or new offering that is coming to the business, or are you in that where you already people know that particular offering in the market and you are now trying to grow the business, or you already established and you're just trying to get the bigger market share. One, be aware of that. Second thing is that be field aligned, so you know what exactly is the last mile requirement. Third, when you go throughout the entire financial year, each and every quarter has got a season. So we need to understand the seasonality of the quarter. Either you are in the first half where you're building, or in the second half where you're accelerating. That is the important thing. And fourth, and the most important thing is that keep the customer at the center, because customer experience, customer delight, and customer retention is what will finally justify the investment that you're doing. So if we take out these couple of ways in which if we can execute and create your strategies, we will be able to avoid the pitfalls, and that will be able to deliver something really very successful to the organization.
Sure, sure, sure. Winston, anything you wish to add to this? Any regional nuances you want to bring to the forum? We have last couple of minutes.
Well, we are running a little bit short of time, and I do need to go soon. So I would say when it comes to Asia Pacific and regional nuances, in some ways it's hard to summarize that very quickly into two simple sentences. But in some ways, it's very different. In some ways, it's more in common than you think. First of all, language, right? If you're covering Asia Pacific, we found very clearly a very great distinction. If you're using English versus, say, Thai or Bahasa Indonesia or Japanese, right? Your engagement rates are here and here, all right? Obviously, you want to be here. So that's language. In terms of content, right? If you're a B2C company, you can see some kind of cultural preferences in how companies crack jokes about themselves. So when it comes time to creating, say, a pan Asia Pacific ad campaign, for instance, it can be a little challenging to try to tweak a message that's unique to a specific market. But having said that, there are times when I found that in certain examples, for example, I think it was Sony. This was 20 years ago. I was covering markets as varied as some sub-Saharan countries, sub-Saharan countries in Africa. I was covering markets in the Middle East, in Southeast Asia. We had this long debate amongst ourselves about what kind of ad campaign we need to do. I think it was for a great hi-fi system that Sony was pushing back then. And we just simply ended up with, okay, it's got CD, it's got double cassette tape, it allows you to dub. It's got FM and AM radio. That's it. It's got great sound quality. We left it at that, right? We went the product route. Because after multiple rounds of debates, we realized that, if we tried to create an emotional appeal, we would have ended up creating probably 10 to 15 different versions of the same ad with different personalities, with different color schemes, with different languages and emotions being displayed. And we just realized, it was counterproductive. So in some respects, I think it kind of boils down to how much time, effort, and money you are prepared to spend to localize your marketing efforts. And more importantly, ask yourself a question: is it actually really necessary to localize it? Take a lucky guess, stick a finger up there and guess. If I were to spend X dollars and X number of hours localizing this campaign, what kind of additional value would I get back from there? If your answer is maybe 10%, then I would suggest maybe it's not worth the time. So that's my experience.
Absolutely. No, thank you so much, Winston. You have hit the right nail. I don't want to wrap up, but all good things come to an end. So I was just taking my notes and to summarize for the audience, Ankesh did talk about two broad outcomes: lead gen and brand awareness, and then referred OKR attribution model. We also talked about NPS to measure B2B customer advocacy, and then we also touched upon MarTech stack of tools that we have. Kaustubh did mention about different measurement scales and tools to measure different aspects of marketing, and I like that no vanity metrics, please. Winston did mention about SEO, followership on social media, digital presence, and customer advocacy, different stages of customer life cycle of awareness, consideration, so on and so forth. And last but not the least, how much localization or hyper personalization is required, right? So to sum it up, Paul, it has been great learning for myself as well. It has been my privilege to host such an esteemed panel and to hear from them firsthand. I'm confident you have enjoyed this enriching session as much as I did. Moreover, it's always beneficial to hear from the leaders directly. You can watch the past webinars on www.cxotv.news. And I can share, I feel happy to share, we are expanding our footprints in the APAC region, and that's how you see our panelists as well as attendees from lined up from countries outside India. We thank each one of you for taking out time and attending this today. With this, I call it a day. Thanks once again for your esteemed presence and wish you a great week ahead. Bye-bye.
For more updates from CXO TV, please like and subscribe to our channel.